Welcome everybody once again to another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. I'm Aaron Bloxel with my co-host, Mr. Matt Balzer. And thanks again for our June sponsor of the month, Flash Wireless. For all your wireless needs, whether it's your phone plans or your actual phone, you can get that through the link below, the link that's pinned at the top of our Facebook page. Use our code and it will help support the show. You'll also be on some of the best networks that the U.S. has to offer. So, again, that's only open to our U.S. fans. But you can also follow us on Facebook and YouTube. That's B&B Hockey Talk. So, thank you. And once again, welcome to all the new people that have joined us recently. Hope you enjoy our coverage and video clips that we're constantly posting. If you love hockey, post your favorite team below. Let us know where you're watching from or listening from, as we love to interact with our fans. So let's get started right away, Matt. Lots of stuff happening in the NHL today. We'll start with the big signing off the free agent market. Erik Karlsson re-signs in San Jose, and I did not expect this to happen, but man, did he get paid today.
Oh yeah, just back those dump trucks back right up there. 8 years, $92 million. That's $11.5 million cap hit. That makes him the third highest paid player in the NHL. Only Connor McDavid at 12.5 and Austin Matthews at 11.6 make more. He's now the highest paid defenseman in the NHL. Drew Doughty was that at $11 million. But the big thing is that they both have the same agent as well. So that guy, he's done well for himself for those.
Oh, that agent's making money.
So just to sort of break down the way the contract is, $53 million of the 92 is in signing bonuses, and $39 million is in salary base over those 8 seasons. So 29 years old. So they got him, Brent Burns, and Marc-Edouard Vlasic all locked up long-term now. All those guys are sort of like in their early 30s. I know Brent Burns is a little older. I think he's like 34. But
he still plays 28 minutes a night, though.
Having those three guys locked up long-term is just great for the Sharks. I think the biggest thing they're hoping for is that Karlsson can stay healthy for the longer term, as he had to deal with all those groin problems. Eventually had surgery in the off season. But with the Sharks, they now only have $12.5 million in cap space. And they got two big restricted free agents in Timo Meier and Kevin Labanc that they got to re-sign. But they also have a handful of unrestricted free agents like Joe Pavelski, Joe Thornton, Gustav Nyquist, and Jonas Donskoy, who all could potentially not be back with the team, especially Pavelski. That'll be the big one to see, because we've seen Doug Wilson, their general manager. He let Patrick Marleau walk, and he was a longtime Shark who nobody thought was going to leave their team. So it'll be a really interesting offseason. But, yeah, huge get for the Sharks. They took that chance in getting Karlsson, knowing that he could potentially walk this offseason. But, man, their patience paid off. And, he's there long-term on the West Coast in San Jose.
If you're a Sharks fan, you're probably extremely happy about that. But with the salary cap being just under or around the $83 million mark this year, man, it doesn't leave a lot of room to sign these guys. Like, I think once you get Meier and Labanc re-signed as restricted free agents, there's not going to be, hardly any money left for Pavelski or any of these guys. I think Thornton may re-sign there on a really small contract if he's going to play one more year, or he could be done. But, man, what a way, unfortunately, for little Joe, his time might be up there. Big trade that happened just before we came on the air between the Rangers and Winnipeg. Why don't you get us those details?
Yeah. So I had actually just written down like some rumors about the Jacob Trouba right before this, but the Winnipeg Jets have officially traded Jacob Trouba to the New York Rangers for Neil Pionk and a 2019 first-round pick. That 2019 first-rounder was actually Winnipeg's this year, which they gave to the Rangers for Kevin Hayes at this past trade deadline. Jacob Trouba, huge get for the Rangers. 25 years old, coming off an 8-goal, 50-point season. Just an absolute monster on that back end. I think he averaged just a little under 23 minutes a night for the Jets. Neil Pionk, who I think is actually a really good get back for the Jets, is another young right-handed defenseman, 23 years old. This was his first full season in the NHL this past season. He had 6 goals, 26 points in 73 games, and just averaged just a little over 21 minutes of ice time with the Rangers. So both players are restricted free agents this offseason, so they'll both need to get paid, especially Jacob Trouba, but the Rangers do have the cap room to get that. I think the rumor number is around like $7.5 million is what I've seen thrown out there, but a huge get for the Rangers and for the Jets. I thought they could have gone maybe a little bit more back, but to get a young right-handed defenseman back and get their first-round pick back as well from the Rangers is really good there.
That is a big trade. There was another trade that happened in the NHL between the Penguins and the Blackhawks. Why don't you bring us up to date on that one?
Yeah, so the Penguins traded defenseman Olli Maatta to the Blackhawks for Dominic Cahoon, who's a right winger, and a 5th-round pick in this year's draft, which is 151st overall. Maatta, 24 years old, still has 3 years left on his contract at just over $4 million on his cap hit. And Dominic Cahoon, who was a rookie this past season with the Blackhawks, actually had a pretty decent season. He had 37 points in 82 games. He was sort of one of those wingers that could move up and down the lineup wherever they needed it. Has 1 year left on his entry-level contract at just at $925K a year. So the Blackhawks, who gave up a lot of goals this past season, get a younger defenseman who can hopefully shore up their penalty kill. The one thing I am concerned with Maatta is a lot of the injuries that he's had over his career. He was a healthy scratch for the last 3 games in the playoffs just because of his foot speed not being great. But hopefully, if he can bounce back to the year that he had before, that he had with the Penguins, hopefully the Blackhawks can get that guy over the next 3 years. Otherwise, this could look bad with the foot speed that he has right now. So, but yeah, otherwise, I think it's a decent move. The Penguins need a little bit more wiggle room and cap space, so they're now just a little over $6.3 million in cap space. And the Blackhawks, who are one of those teams that are going to look to make some big moves this offseason, start there with Olli Maatta.
Perfect. The buyout area has started now in the NHL, so they're allowed to start buying out some contracts. We saw the first few already, and we think there'll be more, but why don't you catch us up to date on those?
Yeah, so a couple of buyouts of some veteran defensemen in the NHL. The LA Kings bought out the last 2 years of Dion Phaneuf's contract. His cap hit was at $5.25 million over the next 2 years, with, of course, the Ottawa Senators retaining 25% of the rest of his contract. So I won't bore you with the numbers, but he'll have a cap hit over the next 4 years between the LA Kings and the Ottawa Senators. He only had a goal and 6 points in 67 games last year and was a minus 21 as 34 years old. And I know that the Kings were bad last year, but he's one of those guys where his foot speed has definitely left.
A lot of mileage on that body of his, for sure.
But I think a team could get him on the cheap end to be like a number 6 defenseman on a good team. So and he's had a great career. It's sort of crazy how the up and downs of his career has been, because like those first few years in Calgary, man, that guy was an absolute monster. Yeah. And it wasn't until like he got traded to Toronto where things started to go a little downhill there. And then the other defenseman bought out the Philadelphia Flyers, bought out Andrew McDonald's final season. He had 1 year left at $5 million. So his buyout will be on the cap for the next 2 years, just a little under $2 million. And then he only played 47 games last year and had 9 assists. And then eventually he ended up being like a healthy scratch or playing limited minutes towards the end of the season. So the Flyers, who already had a bunch of cap space, but they have a lot of young defensemen coming up in their system, and they're looking to be aggressive this offseason as they have already with getting Kevin Hayes in a trade, and then, of course, here again in the buyout.
The Anaheim Ducks have they think their new coach, second stint in the NHL, and was the coach of the San Diego Gulls. Fill us in on the details for him.
Yeah, so the last team that needed an NHL head coach this year was the Anaheim Ducks. They signed Dallas Aikens or hired Dallas Aikens as their new head coach. Yeah, so the last four seasons he coached the San Diego Gulls. He had 154 wins, 95 losses, and 23 overtime or shootout losses. And they qualified for the playoffs 3 out of those 4 years. He spent a couple years there with the Edmonton Oilers. Had a 36, 63, and 14 record in 113 games. But I think with the Oilers, just with the way they had him run, I don't think it was best suited to where he was in his career as a head coach. So I think with him already being Anaheim's organization, that he'll fit in with a lot of their younger guys that are coming up in their system this coming year. So I'll actually be really interested to see how he does this coming year.
I'll put you on the spot with him there. Maxime Comtois, does he make that team this year?
Well, actually, I wouldn't be surprised if he does. He actually had a decent year before, or a decent start to his rookie campaign before he got hurt, and then they just ended up sending him back to junior, which I was actually surprised just because he actually had played pretty decently, though.
Yeah, I think he had 7 points in 10 games or something like
that. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, so, but yeah, they have a lot of young guys like Troy Terry, Andre Kasha, and some other guys just off the top of my head. But yeah, Anaheim, they're looking to turn the table because with no Corey Perry buyout yet, just to keep an eye on that. But
and there's also some Adam Henrique rumors as well.
Yeah, and that's a contract extension. I think the Ducks are trying to get out of because I think he's just crossing 30 years old now, and then I think his cap hit will be around close to $6 million. I want to say, but yeah,
30 years old. Man, I don't know where the time goes by.
I know. Yeah, it's some of these guys is just man, it's they're that old already. It's just crazy. And then so that was that, and then we got a couple more contract extensions. The big one with Washington with Carl Hagelin. They gave him a 4-year, $11 million extension. That's a $2.75 million cap hit. And that's basically with the Matt Niskanen trade they made earlier this past week. Basically, the extra cap space they got in that trade is with this signing. So he's a really good, versatile winger. I think after he got traded to the Capitals, he had 3 goals, 11 points in 20 games with the Caps. And he's one of those wingers where he's good on the penalty kill, but also if they have injuries, they can move him up and down the lineup for short stints. And then also the Ottawa Senators today extended Anthony Duclair to a 1-year deal worth $1.625 million. 23 years old. He's bounced around from a few
almost
teams.
Too much because he's had some success in the NHL, but I think this is his 5th team now that he's on.
Yeah, he's sort of been up and down, but he seemed to find a fit with the Senators after he got traded there. He had 8 goals and 14 points in 21 games after he got traded from the Blue Jackets to the Senators, and I think he'll have a good opportunity there just because there's not going to be a whole lot of guys that want to go to Ottawa for a while. But he's one of those younger guys that looks like hopefully he can get back to that 20-goal, 50-point pace that he had earlier in his career between the Rangers and the Coyotes there. So those were the big two bigger signings. And there's one smaller signing with the Columbus Blue Jackets as they extended Marcus Hannikainen to a 1-year, $750K, more of a 4th-line depth guy.
Perfect. Well, the NHL awards are coming up, I believe, this Wednesday night. Then right here in Vancouver, we've got the NHL draft Friday night and Saturday. Going to be exciting as we get close to free agency July 1st as well. So time is flying. And then we're going to probably hit the dog days of summer. But hopefully your favorite team does what you want them to do at the draft, and your favorite players win their awards coming up in Vegas. So exciting times. Matt, final word to you before we end today's show.
Yeah, big shout out to all the St. Louis fans. That was a heck of a parade you guys put on. I think Brett Hull is still wasted from the we went Blues chant. Oh man, I can't get over that. And then and then just some big standout moments like Layla with the cup on the stage with the Blues. And then, of course, the big viral video that we had, or that we shared with Tarasenko and the young fan with the jersey who looked like he had special needs. just awesome moments. It just shows like those are like the moments that you live for, or set examples for everybody. Like I think with us being Canuck fan, like the Sedin twins were like the pinnacle of that here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So just an awesome moment there, and I saw there was supposed to be 1.5 million people that showed up for the parade, and there are 2.8 million metro population in St. Louis. So just over half the people in St. Louis showed up for the parade. And just for us being some Canuck fans here, one thing, it looks like Alex Edler looks like he will not be returning to the Canucks next season, as it looks like he's really adamant on getting that no movement clause and that 3-year deal, which just does not suit the Canucks. And as much as I'd like to have him back, if he doesn't want to meet Jim Benning's terms, I'm fine with him leaving and looking for a younger defenseman to replace him.
Yeah, congratulations to the St. Louis Blues, and of course, congratulations to the St. Louis fans for being classy as well. And man, the St. Louis Blues players, I loved how they got up and down off of their vehicles during the parade and interacted with all the fans. You guys are lucky to have such great role models in your organization, and enjoy it, celebrate. First time ever the St. Louis Blues have won the Cup. Us here in Vancouver, we're still waiting to experience that. So enjoy it. Congratulations. And we'll be back, of course, later this week with another episode of B&B Hockey Talk. We thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to all the shares and likes and comments below on our page, Facebook, and, of course, YouTube. And we look forward to interacting with each and every one of you. Have a great week.